Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another very interesting session with Suresh Kochattil ji once again. Welcome, Suresh ji.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. So today we'll be talking about the fact that Donald Trump has put tariffs yet again on this time on films. That is any and all films that are made outside of the United States, according to certain reports. So this has, put the OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and most importantly, the Indian film industry uh, into a lot of concern because 35 to 40% of the overseas market of the Indian film industry is from the United States. And also, analysts warn that the fallout could be brutal. Ticket prices, distribution fees, marketing spends may all double if the tariffs are enforced fully. So, for Indian producers working on mid-budget or small films, the math simply wouldn't add up. So, could you just explain as to what he means by this particular tweet he made that he's going to impose, tariffs, 100% tariffs on, films produced outside the United States? You're on mute, Suresh.
Basically, what he's done is he has done it with the same thing which he did with textiles, gems and jewelry, and other things that he has done. There is a disturbance in the background. Somebody singing in
Oh
the
yeah,
background. Basically, what Trump has done, Jaydev, is that he has imposed the same restrictions which he did earlier on other products, including textile, gems, and jewelry. So he has taken it from trade to the film industry now. Now, the reason for that obviously is the fact that Trump feels that the Bollywood and other movies, the Korean movies and others, are shot outside naturally. You can't shoot a Korean movie or an Indian Bollywood movie in the US. You can't have thousand extras dancing on the side. And you know the kind of money that would entail, and of course, they cannot dance the way Indians dance. It's a magnum opus. Think of shooting a Bahubali or a Kantara or RRR in US. It's just not possible because the costs are extremely high. One of the reasons why US is not competitive. Second, we don't get that kind of talent there to participate in the movies. Of course, a lot of Indian movies are being shot abroad. If you see that more than India, many of our producers like to go to Switzerland or other exotic locales like UK and UK to shoot their movies, which is understandable because sometimes they feel that the foreign locales add a lot more glamour than the Indian locales. It's a different matter that not many of the Indian producers have even gone to the real hinterlands of India to discover uh, that we have places which is better than Switzerland. And but that is not the point. The point is very simple. Trump wants that money which is spent on the movies to be spent in the US. Now, why does he want to do it? A very obvious reason is that he feels that the US studios are running in losses because there are not many movies being made. On the budget for each movie is huge. Remember, I think for the Interstellar movie, we sent a mission to the Mars. At I think half the cost or one third the cost of what it took to make that movie. This is the problem. Be it making steel, be it making cars, or be it making movie, America is not competitive at all. Now, he has also included digitally delivered services in this, which means your Netflix and your Amazons and others in US, whatever local digital channels they have, they would also be impacted if they screen a movie that is not produced in India. I mean, not produced in the US. Now, I don't know how this will be tracked because it's impossible to track these kind of delivery of these movies in there. You don't have that kind of technology to check whether the movie is made in US or not made in US, and if so, how much of subscription fees to be paid. I think this also will get struck down by the courts because this is blatantly illegal. I think Trump is walking from one disaster to another disaster. We've seen what happened with the Indian stores in New York and other places. I was watching a video yesterday where a number of them who were extremely kind of busy during this Dasara Diwali time are now running empty, be it restaurants or be it stores catering to Indians. And the very obvious thing is because you can't import a basmati into US now, or you can't bring Indian spices into US because it's prohibitively expensive. And you can't get an Indian spice from, say, Brazil or Mexico. It has to be bought from India only. And that is the reason why it is. So there's something similar for the movies. Now, the main thing in Indians is that, as you rightly said, a lot of the collection for Indian movies, the Bollywood or the other language movies, are actually happening in the US. Of course, we've seen a very shady Amir Khan movie making 1,000 crores in China, which is impossible. Obviously, that was funded by the Chinese government, and the money was given to Amir Khan without actually that many movies being screened there. Now, this I feel also is a big, what do you call? I won't call it a hawala transaction, but it's something very similar. That the movies released in the US, of course, there is a lot of theaters that Indians go to watch those movies, especially ones that have to be watched on the big screen. You know it very well, Jaydev, that even in India, the theater going experience has come down drastically because one, people don't have time. Second, it's too expensive. Sometimes the cost of the movie ticket is okay, but the cost of a popcorn or a cup of coffee is more than what it costs the ticket itself. And you end up, for a family of four, you end up spending around 2K for a movie plus the eatables. Now that is something that they say, oh, what, we can sit at home and watch this at no cost. Of course, if you take a Geo connection or something like that, the cost is very low in terms of watching a Netflix or a Amazon Prime or a Sony, anything of that sort. But the point is very simple: is US imposes this restriction, how does the amount get split? For example, the theater person exhibiting the theater, he gets a cut from the movie's collections, or he asks for a fixed cost. Like for example, even in India, if you go to say the big screen producers, you will say, I want to screen this in 400 screens across India. So if you have PVR or anybody else, Cinepolis or anybody, they will quote an X amount for that and say, this is a fixed cost. We will give you 200 screens, and for the first week, you have to pay so much per day or so much per show. In the US, there's a problem is that the Indian movies are far limited in terms of the releases. Only the big budget ones make it to the US. The smaller ones don't really make it there because they don't have the marketing muscle to get it released. I remember this happened during the Kerala story when the US distributor was struggling to kind of sell this concept across, because one, in the UK they had a problem with the censor board there. In the US, of course, they had it through, but to get the screen was a big challenge because the movie was considered very communal, Islamic phobia and all Islamic phobia and all. That's nonsense. But the point is very simple. Now, if the theater owner, as I was telling you before, says that I need 30% of the cut for the movie collection as a floating one, or I need a fixed cost for the movie, that amount goes to the theater exhibitor, the theater owner, without any tariff on it. So he gets whatever is the actual cost. The distributor too will get the movie at the actual cost. This is my first reading after speaking to a few people here who are involved in the distribution of Telugu movies in the US. Because there's a huge Telugu diaspora in the US, like you have a big Malayali diaspora in the Gulf, something very similar in the US. Now, what happens is the problem is only with the producer. The producer of the movie, say, if he has to get, say, 50 crores from the US, after deducting all the expenditure of the theater and the distributor, if he is getting, say, 25 crores, there is going to be a penalty on that, which means he might end up getting only about half that amount, which is 12 crores. The other 12 crores has to be paid to the American government for not producing the movie in the US. Now, look at the other way around. If the person says, okay, I'm going to produce a Hindi movie in the US, if the budget was, say, 100 crores, in US, it would cost him 250 crores to produce a movie. But his box office collection is going to be still that 50 crores only. It's not going to increase just because the movie is produced in the US. The US government is not giving any incentive to you. Remember when the Telugu film industry shifted from what was then Madras to Hyderabad during N.T. Ramarao's time, there was an incentive for the Telugu film industry to move. One was the physical infrastructure. N.T. Ramarao gave away huge lands to Rama Naidu, Ramoji Rao, and other people who are involved in the film business. And what happened, Padmalaya and all the studios? They set up huge studios in Hyderabad, and the Telugu film industry also moved to Hyderabad along with that. The major actors who are there in Chennai, who are there in Madras, were given land to build houses so that they would also shift to Hyderabad. The recording studios were set up, the shooting floors were set up, every other infrastructure for post production also was set up. As a result, the entire Telugu film industry moved from Madras, which was then the center for movie making, to Hyderabad. Now, with that, what happened? NT Ramarao also started giving incentives. And this continued with the subsequent governments. I'm not sure it's happening now, but we basically said that if you shoot 100% of your movie within Andhra, what was then the United Andhra, you would get an X amount of incentives in terms of your entertainment tax and other taxes payable to the government. And the government might also give you a kind of a small handout of, say, a few crores for you having produced a movie. The idea being that you have generated local employment. So, be it the cameraman, be it the helping hands, there's a studio boys, the post production, the extras, everybody gets a job. So the local job market was going up. But in the US, I'm not really sure. Of course, we saw that in RRR where we had a lot of extras dancing outside. I think one of those ex-Russian USSR countries. Not sure whether it's Azerbaijan or somewhere else, but they were, or Ukraine it was, where they were dancing outside the palace and all that kind of stuff. That may be for a song sequence. It cannot be for the entire movie. The entire movie has to have the Indian touch, Indian locales, and of course, the Indian actors in it. And it's very, very difficult to imagine whether any Indian producer would have the money or the wherewithal to go to the US and produce a movie. I don't think it's going to ever happen. You can't imagine an Iranian movie being made in the US for whatever reasons, political reasons aside, or a Korean movie being, because the movie industry in other countries, I think, except for India, it's not so huge. You can't imagine Pakistani movies being made in the US. For all you know, of course, Asim Munir might be the producer and Shabazz Sharif might be the director. Then possibly Trump would allow them to come and shoot the movie in the US. But I don't think it really makes sense for Indians to produce a movie in the US. They might skip the US market and they might go to other European and Gulf and other countries, including Australia, also can be a new market to kind of run their movies. Or they will even factor the fact that they won't be getting this 20, 30 crores which they get from overseas collection, especially from the US. They'll write it off and look for newer location to screen their movies.
So, Sureshi, also the fact that in India mainly movies are released on the theaters basically to whitewash black money. That's also one of the primary uh, things.
True, true. I mean, if I talk about it, I think I did an interview with RVS Money, who wrote the famous book on the Smith of Saffron Terre, the former undersecretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs when he was there in 2611. During an interview when I was with Jaram TV in Kerala, he clearly mentioned that he was with the CBFC in Mumbai. And at that time, he said there were a lot of Malayalam movies which were announced. Huge amounts of money were given out as advance, 50 crores, up to 50 crores were given out as advance to actors, actresses, and a few leading stars in that movie. After that, the movie never saw the light of the day. It simply folded up. The movie was never shot, never produced, never released. So where did that movie go? Where did that 50, 60 crores that was given out was obviously whitewashing of the money that was happening. It was a Hawala transaction where it was wheeled back into Kerala, and this money was just simply going down because once an actor is paid 15, 20 crores, he keeps about 1 or 2 crores and has to give back the rest to the guy who gave it to him. So that the entire transaction becomes white after that. That, of course, is a big thing, and I'm sure that the Indian producers must be worried a lot now. I mean, they can't blame Modi for this. They have to blame Trump for their predicament. And I'm sure that the Indian film industry will have to get out of that, the D gang approach that was there during the late 80s and 90s to more structured way of making movies through Dharma Productions and Balaji Telefilms and others. That now there is a corporate kind of structure that is in place, but still there is a huge amount of black money that is used in producing movies because more than three-fourths of the payments, more than at least half the payments made, especially in the post-production side, are never recorded. And even during the production time, many of the payments are done by cash and there's no account for it. And if you try doing that in the US, you are in deep trouble because there the payments are very, very legal. It has to be done through the legal channels. There is a very powerful union there. It's not that we don't have a union in India, but the payments are very very strict. There are rules for everything. There's no huge disparity between an actor's payment and a payment made to a, say, a side artist or a minor role artist. Everybody gets an equivalent of what they're supposed to get. So there's no wide disparity there, and that is the main thing. So the Indian producers can't live with that kind of world, and I'm sure they'll skip US. They will settle for other locations.
Yeah. Also, the fact that the American OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Geo Hotstar, uh, they won't allow, if you or I make a film, they won't buy your film to stream it on their platform. You need to have certain connects in the
Oh
OTT
yeah.
platform.
Yeah. That is again a big mafia there. The entire thing revolves on two streams of revenue that comes for any movie producer. One is, of course, that you release it as soon as it's released in the theaters, within 1 week of it, so that there is an interest that is there generated in the movie. And quite often, the producers of today are writing off theaters, and they're signing up with the for the satellite and for the OTT rights before even the movie is even three-fourth complete. They show the rushes to the OTT executives and strike a deal with them. There are a lot of underhand dealing that happens in the OTT industry. The movies are either the payments are made either by per view or they're given by way of a fixed cost. It's only the big producers are able to kind of twist the hands of OTT executives and get the money they want. But the small guys never make it. They never make it. In fact, I feel it's high time the Indian government comes out with its own OTT platform. There are some options on right now, but as they're doing for NDC and others for the commerce industry, e-commerce industry, they should do something very similar for the OTT platform. And there should be a system wherein it can be a 50-50 government and another private investor who will take these movies to the smaller movies, especially in the regional languages, onto their platforms and ensure that the entire stream of people, it is not just a producer who should be making money, but every, as happens in the music industry, where the royalties are paid years on end, even after the artist has passed away, there should be some system of money that should be drawn in there. I think that's what even I feel, Jaydev, should be done.
Yeah. Also, speaking of going local, you have Zoho's guy. He has the Arattai app, or
Yeah, yeah.
which is like a WhatsApp alternative of India, and so it has just recently the downloads has gone from 3,000 a day to a staggering 3,50,000 within 3 days.
Yeah.
So this is after a mix of government endorsements. So do you see this app, catching up in India?
I hope it does, because there was an earlier app that came as a challenge to WhatsApp. I remember, was it GOO or something like that? I don't remember the name exactly, but it disappeared in no time. Uh, don't call it an alternative, as somebody was going on Twitter today and saying, don't call it a WhatsApp alternative, because then you are measuring yourself against WhatsApp. Call it a messaging app, and that's it. And maybe you saw Ashwini Vaishnav doing the first tweet saying I'm shifting and hence we are shifting, and I got a lot of people who sent mails to me saying, links to me saying, sir, you should join up them, dump Gmail. See, the problem is I'm willing to go with it, but tomorrow, after I say for a year or a couple of years, I have no doubt about Zoho will survive. That's Sridhar Vembu, the kind of person like that who has shown that he can walk his talk, and especially working from a rural environment, he's done huge amounts of wonders. Which is why I'm always surprised that a company like Infosys, a company like TCS, or even Wipro, they never bothered to produce a product. They were always into services, or what we call IT coolie jobs, as it's derogatorily called. But the point is, have you delivered a product? Have you delivered a Darwin box? Have you delivered a Keka? These are things which people ask, in various sectors, whether you have developed any product. And most of these guys haven't done that, Jaydev. I think it's a great move by Zoho that they're doing it. It's not that they didn't have these products; they had these products, but it required a tipping point for it to happen. That it moves from a also ran to a kind of massive download. But we need to see down the line, 3 weeks or even 3 months or 6 months from now, whether that interest will be sustained, whether the number of users who will stick on with the Zoho products down the line will be important, because the initial rush, the euphoric feeling, and the feeling of nationalism is good, but then the sustainability is a very important part of it. How much of you will you sustain? Whether it will be profitable for Zoho to continue with their services. Sridhar Vembu was yesterday talking about ramping up, to that increasing demand, closing up the bugs that were coming up. He's set up a dedicated team working 24/7 on this. It's great. I think I always felt this way, that India never did its own. We never had our Canva. We never had our Gmail. We never, of course, Hotmail was earlier Sabir Bhatia's product, but technically it was not an Indian product as such. But the point is very simple. Email at that way is not rocket science. It could have been done very easily. But our IT companies were not interested because it required a long-term commitment to kind of pour money into something that was like a bottomless pit. But eventually you would make money. I mean, why did India produce a Google or Perplexity? Of course, it's the one of the guys who runs Perplexity is an Indian. That is great. But the point is, why didn't he sit in the India? Why didn't sit in India and do this? That's a question. He's in the US. Something very similar for other products that were made by India, including, of course, Vinod Dham's famous Pentium chip those days. We still call him, or Vinod Khosla son and others. They all brought out fantastic products. But the problem was we didn't have an ecosystem then which encouraged these people to make products. We were very safe handling outsourcing jobs because they were giving you a steady income. There was no risk involved. But I think this feeling of, I'm shifting to a Zoho product and I'm going to use it will finally, we will know when the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they say, that we will know 6 months from now whether that initial euphoric feeling which we had today or this week or last week will sustain itself, and Sridhar Vembu and his team will make some money out of it in the end of the chain, because the end of the pipeline is very, very important. We need to say where that light will come from at the end of the, tunnel or whatever, pipe or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, also the fact that you have Telegram also, which is downloadable in India, but I don't see much people on Telegram as well.
Correct.
Everyone is on WhatsApp.
No, I tell you what, Jaydev, I was in Dubai for the last during the last week. You know that, and there are no WhatsApp calls allowed. You can send messages, you can even send voice messages, but you cannot use it as for a calling. The reason is very obvious: is that the companies that run in Dubai, the two or three telecom companies, are extremely expensive. Their data charges are more than if I'd taken an Airtel roaming. I took an Airtel roaming, and that was cheaper than buying a data pack from the local company there. They don't want people to use WhatsApp, because then what happens effectively is that you're killing the market, their market, their calling market, which is what happened to the STDs. Remember, we had the famous STDs and the ISDs during those days, where you are forced to make expensive international calls. Then came the shortened version with STD rate itself coming down, BSNL bringing its rate down. Then you had all these messaging apps giving you the facility for making calls. And then today you have everybody. I don't think there's even one guy who will pay international charges to make a call. I mean, everybody's on WhatsApp or other mediums to make the call. You have, of course, if you need Zoom, you have also WhatsApp, then you have Zoom and other products that are also there, which you can use for calling. And that's exactly what it is. The world is changing. And if you don't adapt, as was said by Charles Darwin, and then, you are dead as a dodo. And that's what will happen.
Yeah, especially the fact that Indians are used to, products which are free of cost and
Oh,
easy
yeah.
to use.
No, but
So,
not really, Jaydev. It was, I think. So if you look at Canva today,
uh,
they first showed you a product which is really good. Okay, and what did they do? They said after this that if you need this, pay 500 rupees every month. I pay for it, and that I think is very reasonable to pay, and to get a whole list of things, from including making thumbnails to any other print products or even editing videos, everything. That is, I think, very important. We are willing to pay if we see a value in the product. The problem is for us Indians, yes, 90% of us would like to have everything free. As I say in many marketing lectures of mine, Even the guy driving a BMW will end of the day bargain for the tomato with the vegetable seller for a kilo of tomatoes. That's what they will do. It's now blood actually, and that is what it is. We will pay, but there has to be a value that has to be shown at the end of the day. It can't be as chat gpt is saying you pay so many dollars and we will give you this. Sorry, it doesn't work. I mean, I pay extra for having 100 GB of data on Gmail. I'm paying for it, which means I see a value in it. On Twitter, I pay for the editing facility and others, including a blue tick, and I pay 900 rupees every month. That I see a value in it. The problem is in some other products you don't see a value in that, and that is where a majority of Indians will not pay up. Of course, you cannot expect those at the bottom end of the value of the chain to pay for these services. They won't.
Yeah. So coming to the last point, Sureshji, is that Rahul Gandhi was seen in Colombia, and this is especially after Sonam Wangchuk was arrested under the NSA. So what is really happening? He keeps making these international trips every now and then.
Well, you know why he does that. Okay, I mean, one is very very clear why he does it. Um, Colombia, of course, it has very notorious connotations. We all know the drug mafia in Colombia and why President Trump is going after the Colombians and Venezuelans like nobody, like world is ending tomorrow. But the point is simple: is Rahul Gandhi says he's going to address the Indian community there, and he goes there. That is an excuse basically, which Sam Pitroda is kind of taking care of it. Sam handles all his international assignments. He fixes up everything, fixes up the interview, fixes up the questions that will be asked, fixes up what answers he will give, everything. Rahul Gandhi wants to look like an intellectual, which he is not. So he's trying to portray an image abroad that look, I am somebody who's bigger than Modi. I speak better English than him. I am still young at 55. He is not young at 75. And the kind of things he comes up with, if you see his interviews in Oxford and other places, it's all put on show. That you can clearly make out that it has all been choreographed before. The audience were all brought in, they were given a briefing. The anchor was told what questions to ask, what questions not to ask. Rahul Gandhi was given the question paper well in advance so that he could prepare for the exam and come prepared to give the answers out. I really don't kind of fancy his foreign trips because I think they are all put on shows. But coming to Sonam Wangchuk, yes, yesterday and day before yesterday when I was in Dubai, a lot of people came and congratulated me saying, Suresh, you exposed this guy 2 months ago in a tweet. And that tweet led to cancellation of his contract that he was about to get with the Indian Army. And you had tagged Rajnath Singh and the Indian Army and even the Prime Minister's office. I never knew that it would work that because my friends in Leh told me about this guy, that this guy is a notorious character and this is what he's set to do. He's floated a Section 8 company, not for profit, to run a university or an educational institution, and he was doing all this kind of stuff. So I got all the details. I looked through it and I found some merit in it. And I said, look, this guy is a notorious character. At that time, I think he was planning for a fast somewhere in Delhi. I think I was also there in Delhi at that time at Jantar Mantar and other places. So he was planning the fast there. And this guy's a regular fasting guy. He goes and fast every 2-3 months. So it's nothing new for him. But I exposed him then, but I never realized what the consequences of what I did. I got abused like crazy by his supporters. A whole lot of them came onto my Twitter. Whole lot of them came onto my Facebook and started abusing me. Many reported me for hate speech. And but finally, what I was happy is that the government of India woke up 2 months later, and again on the same charges of what I was speaking about, banned him, banned his organization, and of course sent him to Jodhpur. I wish they had sent him to Lakshadweep or something because then it's a case of out of sight, out of mind. Then he would not even be seen where he's because that guy Amarjit Singh or whoever it is from Punjab, who's even an MP now, he's lying in some godforsaken jail in Assam. Nobody's poor guy heard of him since he has been put in the jail there. But Sonam Wangchuk was entirely backed by the Congress. If you know his history, his father, his family, everybody were involved in the Congress party. And BJP was nowhere till the 2014 election in Ladakh. And the same chap who welcomed union territory status because that would give them the freedom from the Kashmiris, whom we thought were taking away all the money meant for Leh. And suddenly he changed his tunes, and we all know for why. I can talk extensively about it because the kind of notorious work that he has done in destroying India's image within Ladakh and outside Ladakh is phenomenal. I mean, this guy has slowly and slowly managed to get the entire ecosystem in place. And when I visited Ladakh in 2024, I really saw it firsthand of what is happening out there.
Right. So that was a wonderful session, Sureshji, and we will see you once again next week.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai
Jai
Hind
Shri Ram.
and Jai Shri Ram.